conversation is Russ Wilson a Hall of Famer? I mean, he's got multiple Super Bowls. I mean, he will be a conversation for sure. I don't think he's anywhere near done either. 35 years old, was playing great football, was liking a lot of the tweets that were saying he's a good football player. I think Russell Wilson's going to have another good opportunity. Maybe New England. Maybe Pittsburgh.
Maybe
Atlanta. Maybe
Minnesota.
Maybe
New
anywhere.
Orleans.
Literally. There is a lot of quarterback. We got Anthony Richardson, Gardner Minshew.
Hopefully.
So I love Russell Wilson. I don't know if Sierra would want to come here. Remember, at one point, they did have a wish list, Team 3 put out on where they would go. Chicago.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Las Vegas.
Oh.
New York, I think, was one of them.
Sure. The big markets.
Because the Giants are paying Danny Dimes.
Yep.
One more year, really.
Yeah, because the way the contract was set up.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's going to be suitors for Russell Wilson, and he's getting $30-some million guaranteed already, and he's going to make $124 million in his time with the Denver Broncos. Not a lot of dubs, obviously a chapter in his life that he will look past and move along and hopefully just draw some inspiration from. But he said, God's got him.
Yep. That's right.
God's got him.
Thank you, God.
God does.
He got him 124 M's, too.
More than that.
God's got him.
I know.
God had him. God gets him. God got him.
What's he made
Altogether?
in his career?
Remember, he was he was fourth rounder, third rounder? Third rounder. So his first contract, whenever they were winning, was just like what Brock Purdy's going through right now. So a lot of his money had to be earned like in off-the-field adventures as opposed to the salary that he was making for the team. Then he signed a massive deal. He was in bed, 100-some million, remember? Then he gets traded to Denver, another renegotiate, another $100 million deal. So I would assume he's up there like $150 million, $120 million.
Yeah.
I'd assume.
Danger Witches in its prime was moving.
I think 266 million.
That's total contracts, but I think he was traded in the middle of one of those contracts, right? So then,
that was the extension the Denver gave.
Yeah, what kind of sits on top of what cancels out who, carry the one, drop the two. We have no idea, but yeah, God got him pretty good.
Yeah.
He's going to be the backup, right, to Stidham
This weekend?
this week coming up, right?
No way they're dressing him, right? If it's an injury thing, there's no way he's dressed, right?
Well, if he's the backup, you got to have two guys up.
Well, Denver Broncos, remember, they had that wide receiver.
They did.
A couple of years back playing quarterback. There's a chance. You never know with that entire thing.
But why would you do that?
True.
Knowing that, hey, way quarterbacks are going down? This guy goes down and he's got to go in, and because the whole part of it is they can't get injured, right?
So right now it's just two quarterbacks on the roster. We will assume they'll sign another one, bring somebody in, but we have not heard that. If we hear that, we will certainly let the world know. Yesterday we heard from Schultz Report of Bleacher Report.
Wow.
Little latte, Jordan Schultz. He had a little tea about what was going on behind the scenes at the Denver Broncos, and he broke it on Instagram.
Ooh.
Sources to Bleacher Report. Now, that is Schultz saying to him.
Right.
Yep.
So he's doing the whole, because he got signed. Hey, we seen this guy when he was just
Sweet boy.
Cutting his teeth.
just walking through the streets of New York, going into one of his family's penthouses.
Yep.
When he was down in Mexico, going in one of their villas. When he was in the mountains at one of his log cabins.
Right. Yacht.
And Schultz could easily be taking any other job than insider for the NFL that he wanted. He could have his feet up on a desk at Starbucks Corpo for the rest of his life, making an absurd amount of money to do very little work. Okay, very little work. Just what I have to do is think, because his dad, obviously, the whole thing. Instead, he said, you know what I want to do? I want to get in the waters where everybody's pissed off at everybody, deliver bad news. I want drama, and he's in it. So we are very proud of Schultz making the decision he's making. And also now he's starting to become a little bit of a...
Oh, yeah.
He's in it.
A couple years ago, whenever we were first introduced to Schultz, he was batting 350.
Sure.
Yeah.
Baby.
Yeah, maybe 330. You know what I mean? Baseball, that'll make you into the Hall of Fame. But if you're in the NFL news-breaking world, it's like every time he breaks something, you got to think to yourself, is that real? Is that not real? Because trying to be legit, but I think he was getting duped early. Now it feels like he has properly placed sources.
Starting to become a power player.
Congrats to Schultz. Yesterday, he basically broke the news that after an October 29 upset win over the Kansas City Chiefs, the Denver Broncos told Russell Wilson he'd be inactive the rest of the season if he did not adjust his contract and defer the injury guarantee trigger date that he has for 2025. Wilson has $37 million in injury guarantees for 2025 that will become guaranteed no matter what on the 5th day of 2024 league year in March. So if he's not able to pass a physical on that particular day, that money becomes guaranteed. If he's on the roster on that particular day, that money becomes guaranteed. So they basically told him that if he didn't waive the injury thing, so if he does get injured here in these last few weeks, let's say something happens to, a knee, and he's not able to pass the physical in March, all of a sudden the Broncos would be on the hook for another $37 million on top of the 100 and whatever million they're already paying him for a couple years worth of work that nobody is going to write a book about the success of. So this news seems like a little bit of drama. Why would Russell Wilson ever agree to that? And then how was the relationship immediately upon then with Russell Wilson basically understanding that he was probably going to get let go by the Denver Broncos after this season ended? How would you handle that as a coach? How do you think that went with Russell Wilson? That's an uncomfortable situation all around. And I don't know how. I don't know how that stayed
you want
quiet.
me to have this conversation? Like they're going to come to you and say, "We need to have this conversation." What do you mean we need to have this conversation? I don't want to have this conversation with this kid.
Yeah.
Why would you do this to?
That's a tough convo. If this is the truth, and Diana Rossini kind of The Athletic came out afterwards and said, like, yeah, what you're hearing is true. Words around the league were saying this because I would assume Russell Wilson's team 3, which there's a lot of people have friends in other places, and they're like, listen to what they're just trying to ask Russell to do. They're trying to get him to waive a guarantee. It's like that is starting quarterback.
Yes.
If they're done, right? If that ship has sailed, the juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore, then you move on, and whatever you're going to have to pay, you're going to have to pay. And if you're not going to go to a guy and ask him that, I find that hard. I would never go to a guy and say, you need to remove this, otherwise we're going to do this.
That's bad business.
How about your locker room? How about the rest of the guys? How about free agents? How about free agents that are coming? Hey, you want to come play? Was this true?
Yeah.
What you did to Russell
Once again,
Wilson?
this is insider
because we all
Schultz
know
and Rossini. We're not 100%. I'm sure the Denver Broncos have their side of the story.
Right, but can you imagine Sean Payton of staff trying to convince guys to come in there when you got this stuff? Did this really happen? Just the idea that something like, because we know it's a rough business and it can become dirty. Like this is dirty. This is bad.
Yeah, it's not good to be known for either, especially with somebody who's as public as Russell Wilson.
If
it's true, that is a tough move. But you heard the way Sean Payton answered that one question about like moving forward, and he said previous year's starters. So what he said a lot in that full thing.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, but all he cares about. But whenever he described Russell Wilson in other moves that were made that weren't quarterbacks as previous year starters, it's like, oh, he wants this to be like his team, like how I build this team, which takes me back to thinking like when Sean Payton interviewed for these jobs, he certainly brought up the potential of moving on from Russell Wilson if it doesn't work after 1 year, especially with how Russ looked last year in Nathaniel Hackett's offense, which has 10 touchdowns on the season.
That's right.
Joe Flacco also has 10 touchdowns in like 3 weeks. So it's like, I think this was something that was maybe cooking for a while. And Sean Payton was almost, I don't know what week it was this year, but at some point he was like, yeah, I'm moving on from this guy.
Yeah.
And then he's still their starter, though, at that time. Because you hear Darius Butler the other day, he's like, they're running this basic offense. Like, he's treating him like he's a rookie, undrafted quarterback pretty much. On first down, they're doing this. On second down, they're doing this. There's really no creativity. It's like, at what point did Sean Payton be like, I don't want to do
He's the ultimate game manager right now.
Russ?
Yeah, for what they're asking.
Having good numbers, though, they're saying.
No,
They're saying he's having good numbers.
Don't go outside of this plan. This is what we're doing. And it's not been bad. I mean, that's their formula for winning right now, I guess. But
if they don't go on that winning streak, this probably happens a lot earlier.
But but they're 1-5. They started 1-5, and then after they beat the Chiefs, I think they were 2-5 or 3-5. It's not as if they were terrible and that was the first win on the way back. But of course, the team seeing like the new linemen and new wide receivers, they probably have something to say. But if you're another quarterback in the NFL and you see a guy who has 20 touchdowns and 6 interceptions and his coach isn't happy with him, how are you thinking as far as considering that a place to sign? Or are they just going directly to draft? So then it's, hey, I'm going to mold this kid.
Well, Sean Payton could just say, I never wanted this guy.
That's what I'm saying. He'll say to everybody.
No,
when other players are coming in for free agency. And
I didn't do this deal.
Yeah, Sean Payton's like, you're my guy.
This
he was not my guy.
I inherited.
And I'm excited to hear, just like whenever the Seattle exit happened, like the anonymous.
Right.
The anonymous.
Boy, that was messy.
I'm excited to hear what Denver's anonymous are saying because remember, it wasn't too long ago when the conversation was he has his own office upstairs.
No
he has his own parking spot. He does his own thing. It's like there's going to be people probably anonymously coming out from Denver saying, this guy he was doing John Elway. Okay, John Elway is a president and won Super Bowl Hall of Fame. This guy's asking for, like, I'm assuming that's the next step of this entire thing, especially with the likes on the Twitter account.
But like you said, like the timing still seems weird because they ripped off that winning streak and they were back in playoff contention. So you have to almost think that Peyton was like, hey, we can't make the playoffs this year because if we do, then I probably will be stuck with this guy. So for them to kind of get back in the playoff picture and then get beat on Christmas Eve in the Holiday Classic and be like, okay, this is kind of the room now we can cut bait. Like that just seems kind of fishy. Like it doesn't really make sense.
I like
Yeah,
fish,
then
especially
the
this time of year.
undressing.